good. Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Hey, Chris.
Hey, I won't make you repeat it, that's fine. So for those who don't know me, my name is Chris. I'm one of the pastors here at Epicentre Church. Hello, it's exciting. Now you talk, it's my turn to talk. I have the microphone, all right? Have you ever had one of those days, I don't mean one of those bad days, but one of those days where you stop and you take a deep breath and you look around and you realise that what you're doing is the same thing you did yesterday, it's the same thing you did the day before, same thing you did the day before, the same thing you're going to be doing tomorrow, and you just sort of stop and you go, why? Like, why do I bother? Like in a workplace setting, it's when people go, hey, how are you today? And you go, another day, another dollar. In any environment, your school, work, home, people say, hey, how are you doing? And you go, same old, same as yesterday. It's another part of the daily grind. And it just highlights there's a repetitiveness and a tediousness to life at times. Right? Do you know what we're talking about? Like there's just times where you just go, why do I just do the same thing day in, day out, over and over again? What is the point of it all? And then what I find happens, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, as I'm having those thoughts, eventually I start dwelling on, okay, what's the point of this? And then that thought gets bigger. And suddenly I'm pondering much, much bigger questions of like, what's the point of all of it? Like, what's the meaning of life? Like, what is the point of all of it? What is the meaning of life? And then if you stop and you actually think about that question and you zoom out a little bit and let it breathe and start to really think about what you're asking, what I think you'll find is that you'll realize that there are billions and billions of people on this world who are all doing the same thing, who are just trying to get through life, who are just trying to carve out a little bit of meaning, carve out a little bit of purpose, just trying to get some financial freedom, just trying to get through each day, find a little bit of happiness, maybe make an impact. Right? Here's the reality. All through human history, people are born, people die, and in between they do the best they can. Right? They just do the best they can to try and make their life have some purpose, have some meaning. What is the meaning of life? What is the point of it all? So, I'm going to try and answer some of these questions. And maybe is it work? Is the meaning of life to work? To get up, to go to work, to get up, to go to work, to get up, to go to work, to get up, to go to work so that you can earn money, so you can buy the things you want, so you can do the things you want to do, so you can have that holiday, so you can support your friends and your family and all of that stuff. Is that the point? Is the point school? If you think the point is school, I've got bad news for you, because if you think the point is school, it's just to get you to work. Like you'll get to school, then you'll finish school, and then you'll get a job. Maybe you think the meaning of life is to have kids, to carry on your family name. To have something that's going to outlast you, so you have generations that'll keep going and going and going. Maybe you think the meaning of life is to be remembered, to do something that's bigger than yourself, to do something that you're going to make an impact, to create something, to do something which people are going to look back on and be like, hey, that guy or that girl, they did this. Maybe it's just to accumulate knowledge, to learn and just learn as much as you can. Right? What is the meaning? What is the point of life? And this is a pretty big question, and I'm going to aim to try and answer it today. For the nerds that are here, the answer is not 42. So the nerds laugh because they get the reference. And Rob's like, what? What are you talking about? No, it's not, no. Banished. It's not 42, it's not 6'7", all right? Done. Yeah, I know, it's awful. Right. But before we get into that, we are in a series at the moment called Jesus Is. And this series, we are going through a book written by Judah Smith of the same name, where we're just actually trying to answer one question each week, and that is, how do you fill in the blank? How would you answer the question, Jesus is? Right? So what's interesting is that everybody has an answer. Everybody. Christian, non-Christian, the person who cut you off in traffic, the person who served you at the shop, every single person has an answer to this question. They have a way that they would fill in the blank. Not all of them are positive, but they all have an answer to who Jesus is. There is a website you can go to, which is jesus-is.org.au, and you can go on there and you can put your own answers in, and you can read. There's a wall of answers on there where people answer this question. They go, Jesus is, and they answer it. Here's a couple that I found this week that I liked. Jesus is my homeboy. Yeah. Jesus is better than Mount Panorama. I disagree with that. I'm not a car guy. Couldn't care less. Jesus is not. Jesus is everything. It's a good one. Jesus is my beer. Yeah, I know. How do I justify that? I'm not even going to try. If you want to know why someone wrote that, you can go to the website, you can click on it, and there'll be a paragraph on explaining what it means, right? Or how they got to that conclusion. And there is all of these answers. There are so many more answers on there. There are some which are theologically deep and rigorous. There are some which are funny. There are some which are pretty negative. There's some which are downright hostile, but it all emphasizes this point that everybody has an answer to the question, Jesus is what? Right? That's what we're going through. And so this is week 3 of the series, and we launched the first week with Jesus is for you. And then last week, we continued with the incredibly important idea that Jesus is grace. And if you were paying attention last week, and when Rob talked about how there's an answer to every question in Sunday school, you should be able to work out pretty quickly where today is going. Right? Does anyone remember what the answer to every question in Sunday school is? Like, what colour is the sky? Jesus. It's Jesus. It's Jesus coloured, whatever that means. It's concerning. That the answer to every question is Jesus. So if we go back to those initial questions, what is the meaning of life? It's Jesus. What is the point? It's Jesus. And that's a nice and flippant answer, and I could just leave it here and go home. But to try and answer it a little bit better, you guys get to learn a new word in Hebrew today. Isn't that exciting? One, yes. He doesn't care, he's just encouraging me. That word is Hebel. Right? I don't know what all the symbols mean, but that's how it's pronounced. It's pronounced Hebel. And it means breath, vapor, meaningless, or vanity. And you might be going, how can breath and vanity be the same word? Right? Meaningless we understand. We know what meaningless means. It's something without meaning. Vanity, it's talking about how there are things that we hold on to that we think matter, but they don't. And when it's translated as breath or vapor, in this context, it's that idea that it can't be held onto. It's like breath. It's here 1 second, then gone the next. It doesn't have substance. It can't be held onto. It can't stick around. It's ultimately kind of temporary, fleeting, short-lived, right? So breath, vapor, meaningless, vanity, Hebel is the word of the day. So we're going to start by reading the start of Ecclesiastes, which says this: the words of the teacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the teacher, vanity of vanities. Other translations say meaningless, meaningless, everything is meaningless. All is vanity, all is meaningless. What do people gain from all the toil at which they toil under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down and hurries to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Round and round goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they continue to flow. All things are wearisome, more than one can express. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, or the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has already been in the ages before us. The people of long ago are not remembered, nor will there be any remembrance of people yet to come by those who come after them. So what is the point? So the author of Ecclesiastes, he's ultimately saying, what is the point of all these things? What's the point of everything? And his answer is Hebel, breath, vapor, meaningless. Right? The book of Ecclesiastes is written by King Solomon. He's a guy who has been blessed with wisdom. He's got all the wisdom. He's got all the resources. He can kind of do whatever he wants. And he spends this entire book just ruminating over all the different things that he thinks might bring meaning and purpose to his life before in turn concluding that each of them are meaningless, pointless, not worth the effort. Judah Smith in his book highlights a handful of them, which I'm going to go through shortly, but there is many, many, many more than what I'm about to go through. Right? Solomon's got a pretty comprehensive list. He's tried everything, and ultimately none of it is good for him. So Solomon asked the question, will he find meaning? Will life have meaning if he increases his intelligence? And what he learned is that the more he learnt, that didn't increase his satisfaction with life. In fact, the opposite was true. The more he learnt, the more he could see how wrong things were. The more he struggled, the more suffering he saw. So that wasn't the answer. Maybe the answer was pleasure. Maybe if he just got the things that he thought would make him feel good, things that he wanted, that'd make him happy. That'd give his life meaning. But he writes, whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. So he's saying, everything I wanted, I worked for, I went and got it, yay me. Then I considered all that my hands had done and the toil I had spent in doing it, and again, all was meaningless, all was vanity, and a chasing after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. He was saying that short-term pleasures were just that. Short-term. They were temporary, they were fleeting, they didn't have any long-term substance. There's a saying that gets bandied about, which is, money can't buy happiness. That's not true. Money can buy happiness, but only for a really short amount of time. Like, you can buy stuff and you can go, this is great, and you're happy. But who cares in the long run? So it's not that. So maybe it's wisdom. Maybe it's wisdom. What Solomon realized, and he was a very wise man, you can be the wisest person in the room. But at the end of your life, the wise and the unwise end up in the same place. At the end of the day, whether you're wise or unwise, nothing changes. So it's not that. Maybe it's work. Maybe the point is work. But he says, because sometimes one who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave all to be enjoyed by another who did not toil for it. He's saying that you can work and work and you can accumulate, you can have houses, you can have money, you can have generational wealth, and then you're going to die, and that someone else is going to take all that, and they didn't earn it, they didn't work. What was the point? Like, why waste your time? It doesn't give you any real value, meaning, or purpose. Maybe it's power. Solomon realized that this is temporary, that it's fleeting. He says it as who rules in one generation is rejected by the next. But even in a more practical sense, right? You have your bosses in a workplace, and they can be a boss for X amount of time, but eventually they retire, and who cares? A new boss comes in, and they don't go, oh, well, we're going to continue everything the old boss did. We go, no, new vision, new direction, new management, whatever it might be. It's kind of meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Maybe it's righteousness. Maybe we can find meaning in our life by living righteously. But Solomon says there is a vanity that takes place on earth, or something meaningless that happens on earth, that there are righteous people who are treated according to the conduct of the wicked, and there are wicked people who are treated according to the conduct of the righteous. I said that this also is vanity, that this also is meaningless. And we know this to be true. We can all think of people who are good people, right, who seem to go through really hard, horrible things, and it doesn't seem fair, it doesn't seem right, it doesn't seem just like, but they're good people, they do the good things, why don't they get rewarded? And on the flip side, there are people, and this is the judgmental side of us, that we look at and go, they are not good people. They deserve to be punished. They're naughty. But they seem to get everything they want. But there are people that you know who are dishonest in their business dealings who seem to profit. There are people who do the wrong thing, who lie, who cheat, who steal, yet they don't get caught. They seem to get away with it and their life looks better for them. There are people who do all the right things who seem to go through a hard time, right? Like, the point is you can be righteous, doesn't mean you're going to get anything. Doesn't mean it's actually going to give you any meaning or purpose. It's kind of so Solomon's saying it's all meaningless. And the last one he mentions in the book is talent. And Solomon realizes that even talent isn't enough to give you meaning or purpose, because the fastest runner doesn't always win the race. The best fighter doesn't always win the fight. People who are incredibly talented, skilled, knowledgeable, sometimes they still go hungry. Right? Just because you've got talent doesn't necessarily mean anything. I don't need to go to ancient history to prove this. I can use something a little bit more recent. I'm going to use some Olympic trivia. Is anyone good with their Olympic knowledge? I hope not, because it ruins my point. If anyone knows the answer to this question, I'm in trouble. No Googling allowed. Does anyone know who Charlotte Cooper was? Good. Well done. But why does she matter? She did something really, really significant. She was the first woman to win individual Olympic gold. Right? So she was the first woman to be able to get on the podium, get a gold medal, and say, Charlotte Cooper, you've won gold for your country. She's the first woman in history to do that. Right? This is the 1900 Paris Olympics. She won gold for tennis. Yet 126 years later, who cares? No one knows her, right? She had all the talent. She made a historical impact. She likely paved the way for women in sports to some degree, right? She had this huge impact at the time. She would have had fame and success and wealth and all the stuff that comes with that. And now 126 later we go, Charlotte who? It's meaningless. In the grand scheme of things, and if we zoom out on the eternal timescale, right? And if someone did happen to know her, it's because she was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2013. So that might have renewed this much interest for the tennis nerds. The point is, if you think of the biggest and best celebrities that you know, the most influential celebrities you know, right? I can almost guarantee you, 100 years from now, they will be all... You don't have to answer. They will be all but... George is like, what? They will be all but forgotten. Right? You can have all the talent, you can have all the fame, you can have all the success, you can have everything today. 100 years from now, odds are, it's going to be forgotten. It's not going to have meant anything really. There's a saying that gets applied to artists, like musical artists, when they reach a certain level of fame, and that is, that we call them bigger than the Beatles. But ironically, we're at that cultural turning point where lots of people don't know what that expression means. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them will know who the Beatles are because they've got cool parents and cool grandparents, but they won't understand what Beatlemania was. Like, that idea of being bigger than the Beatles doesn't have any context. It doesn't mean anything, yet we still throw it around like it matters. Give it another 20, 30 years, and they're going to be Beatles who? It'll come up on a retro playlist getting remixed somewhere, and it's not going to have any meaning, right? So what is the point? What is the point? Like what's the point of any of it, right? Solomon concludes with this. He says, the end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for that is the whole duty of everyone. Solomon goes through all the other things, your fame, wealth, success, knowledge, work, all of it, and goes, ultimately, none of it means anything. All of it is pointless. All of it is meaningless. It's all kind of a waste of time. Why even bother? And then he says, no, the point is to fear God and to keep his commandments. Now, fear God in this context does not mean to be scared of God. Not in the, he's so scary. No, the idea is, fear God here means to be in total awe of God. To recognise the majesty and just the grandness and just the incomprehensibility of who God is, and to just be just completely awestruck as we think about God. It is to fear God, to be in awe of God and keep his commandments. And I love the order, because step one is to fear or to be in awe of God first, and then to keep his commandments. Fear God first, then keep his commandments. Or, maybe put differently, is to know God and then to live like you do. Right. To know God and to live like you do. And I think this is, unfortunately, somewhere where Christians, myself included, we get this backwards. Right? We get this turned around a little bit because we just get the priorities wrong. Instead of knowing God and then living like we do, what we do is that we try and fit God into our lives as opposed to making God the central part of our lives. We go, you know what, here's my life and all my resources across the stage here. This much of it's taken up by work, this much taken up by family, this much I just want to sleep. This much is stressing about finances, this much is about, taking the kids to sport, and I've got this much left and I'm going to give this to God. Solomon says we need to know God, then live like we do. Right, but instead we tend to structure our lives a little bit like a pie chart. Kind of looks like this. So you probably can't read the text. And these ratios I've completely made up. There's no evidence for them, okay? It's just to highlight the point. It's big chunk for work, big chunk for family, rest, finances, tasks, social life, and this tiny little white sliver at the top, that's how much we leave aside for our faith. That's the tiny bit that we go, you know what, after all is said and done, after I prioritise everything that I've decided matters, everything that I think gives value, everything that I gives meaning, I'm going to give this much of my life to my faith, to my God, right? We focus on all the stuff that Solomon tells us is ultimately meaningless, that is ultimately vanity, that is ultimately breath, that is ultimately vapour, and we leave what's left to God. right? If that's how your life's structured, mine's been like that from time to time. If that's how your life's structured, Solomon is telling us that you're missing the point. Right? You're missing the point because you're focusing on all the stuff that doesn't actually matter and leaving out the parts that do. So this is how your life should be structured. There shouldn't be any slices. Your entire life should be about knowing God. Right? That's how it should be. And from that is where you discover purpose, direction, guidance. From knowing God, that's where God will then draw your attention to the things that he says matters for you. Yeah. From knowing God, that's where he will highlight the things that he wants you to do, the things that inspire you, the things that he has created you to be interested in and called to and to do. From knowing God, we will find purpose, direction, and life. But we, unfortunately, we pursue meaningless things, hoping they will bring us meaning. We decide what matters. We say, my work is more important. Everything, and then we leave the rest for God. And we do it with everything. We do it with our time, our energy. We do it with our finances. Like, I remember when I first started tithing, this is how I did it. I got my budget. And I went, cool, I earned this much. I need this much for rent, I need this much for food and bills and and I've got this much left over and I want to save some, so I'm going to give God this much. Right? It wasn't from God first, it was God last. It was going, everything else matters because I've decided it matters more, it feels more important to me, and out of what's left is what I'm going to donate to God. We pursue meaningless things, hoping they will bring us meaning. But what it's supposed to be is that we're supposed to know God, then live like we do, so that out of knowing God, we get the direction, we get the guidance to do everything else. From knowing God, we'll get led on how to interact with our family, in our work, with our finances, even in our rest, in everything we do. If knowing God is at the center, everything else will flow out of that. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm glad that makes sense, but I also know what I would be like if I was hearing this message, because some of you will be the same as me. You'll be going, great, just know God more, love it. Just press into God more. And you go, I agree with you. We just need to know God, right? Beck, just put God at the center, yeah? You're all on board? It's just about the cross. That's it. Like, put God at the center and your life is good. And then if it was me sitting out there listening to someone else do this, I'd be going, great. How? Like, what does that mean? That's a great thought. But my life's busy. Like, how do I put God at the center? Ecclesiastes is the start of it. Solomon says, vanity of vanities, everything is meaningless. But he also says, all things are wearisome, more than one can express. So what Solomon says, that all this stuff that we chase after, all this stuff that we pursue, all this stuff that we think matters, it is meaningless and it is tiring. But then Jesus comes along. And Jesus says, come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now, when Jesus said this, he was speaking to a group of people who lived under the Jewish religious system, right? Who were just all about Israelite law. Everything they did, how they worshipped, how they worked, how they interacted, how they did family, everything they did was wrapped up in the law. Right? That was their whole structure for existence. It was all law-based and everything they did. And then Jesus comes along and goes, yeah, okay, cool. Instead, that's a good idea. Like we love the law, but it's ultimately meaningless and it's tiring. Come to me, sit at my feet, learn from me, and from there you will find the life that's worth living. What I love is that Jesus doesn't say to them, he doesn't say to the Israelites, he doesn't tell them to be better. He doesn't tell them to try harder. He doesn't tell them to go and do more law, whatever that would look like. He doesn't say do more law. He says, no, stop. Guys, come here, take a break, listen to me because you've missed the point, and from me you will find life. And this isn't the first time, even in this book, that Jesus has addressed the Israelites about their focus on the law. Only a few chapters earlier, you have the Sermon on the Mount, and it has this. It says, do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill, which makes sense because Jesus is like, the law is good because my Father gave it to you. The law came from God. The law is good. So don't think I'm here to get rid of it, guys. He goes further, he says, "For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until it is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven." So he's saying the law is good. I understand why you like it. God gave it to you. But then he continues with a series of statements which are framed like this. He says, "You have heard it said," and he says something about the law, "but then I say." Yeah, Jesus says. Right, for example, I'll give you two. He says, "You have heard it said, do not commit adultery." And every guy there is like, "Good, I haven't cheated on my wife this week. Excellent." Or last week or any week, just for the record, right? Like they're in the crowd going, "Do not commit adultery. I can manage that. That's an easy law to follow. I love my wife. I'm not going to cheat on her. Easy." You've heard it said. But Jesus said, "Yeah, guys, but if you've ever looked at a woman with a little bit of lust, you've cheated on her." He says, you have heard it said, do not commit adultery, but I say, if you even look at her with lust, you already have. He says, you have heard it said, do not murder. Good advice, don't kill people. But then Jesus says, do not murder, but if you have offense or anger or resentment towards your brother or sister, you come under the same judgment. You've done the same thing. If you are holding resentment to somebody else, you come under the same charge. You are just as guilty of murder as if you had actually stabbed them. Right? You have heard it said, but I say. And what Jesus is actually doing here is he is pointing to them and he's going, guys, you've got the law, but you're missing the point. You're never going to get meaning through this. Right? You're not even close. No matter how hard you try, you're not going to make it there, because the law was never about getting them up to a standard. It was always about revealing God's character. It was never about saying you have to act this way so that you are good enough. It's going, hey, this is who God is. That is the point of it. And I imagine that if Jesus was here today, so then he was speaking to the Jews under the legal systems of the time. But if we fast forward that today, we're no longer under Israelite law. We are no longer bound up by all of those laws and stuff that they had to follow. But we still culturally have things that we have determined matter. We have things that society tell us that matter. Christians and non-Christians alike are seemingly obsessed with bettering ourselves. That's why there is a plethora of self-help books, webinars, podcasts, conferences, all of these things, all marketed towards helping you find your true self, unlocking your full potential, unleashing your inner strength. Right? Like they're everywhere. And this is Christians and non-Christians alike. We seem obsessed with this. They're everywhere. Somehow we think that if we just read one more book, listen to one more podcast, attend one more webinar or whatever it is, then suddenly it'll all become clear and we'll go, what is the meaning of life? And it'll be clear to us. If we just read the latest, self-help book, that'll give us the answer. So I imagine if Jesus was here today and he was giving a similar Sermon on the Mount, and for the record, Jesus is not saying this is strictly my imagination, I'm not adding to the Bible, but I imagine it would look something like this. You have heard it said, these are all real quotes from self-help books. You have heard it said, find your tribe and build your brand. But I say, lose your life for my sake and you will find it. You have heard it said, just say yes, lean into your higher self. And again, but I say, whoever wishes to save their life will lose it. Whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. You have heard it said, overcome your inner critic and build unshakable confidence. But I say, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You have heard it said, follow your passion and the money will follow. But I say, for what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? You have heard it said, visualize your success and manifest your future. But I say, seek first the kingdom of God and all these things will be added to you. You have heard it said, be the hero of your own story. But I say, whoever would be first among you must be your servant. Culture today focuses on self-development, inner strength, planning out your perfect life, trying to determine it all for yourself. But Jesus tells us to stop planning to save ourselves and just to follow him. Then you'll find the life that's worth living. Everything in this world tells us that success, that fame, that fortune, that popularity, etc. is the point, but it's not. Jesus is the point. Jesus is the answer to the question. What is the meaning of life? Jesus is. What is the point of it all? Jesus is. Jesus is the answer to our questions. And once we understand that, everything else flows from that and everything else falls into place. If we know that Jesus is the point, everything else clicks, right? And we go, okay, if Jesus is the point, then I should act like this in this space, and I should do this in this space, and I should be doing this. If Jesus is the point, it changes how we think about everything. Right? The reminder here today is that Jesus is the point, not to make you feel bad, but so that you can refocus him as where he should be, as the focal point of your life. Yeah. But I'm not telling you anything new. Christians in the room today, you all know this. Rob, you know this, right? Jesus is the point. You knew this already, Beck, Murray. Yeah, we all know that Jesus is the point. Yeah. For the Israelites, I don't think he was telling them anything new either. I think Jesus speaks to them and they go, yep, that makes sense. We're revealing God's character. I don't think he was giving them new information. I think he was refocusing and re-highlighting where their attention should be. Right? Christians, we love, we worship, and we aim to follow Jesus. Yeah? That's the job. That's what we do as Christians. That's the whole point. But unfortunately, life, society, culture, just things get in the way and risk taking Jesus out of the center of our lives to being just a part of it on the side. And I don't think it's intentional. I don't think it's malicious. I think it happens just subtly over time. We start, working too many hours. Too many bills start rocking. All that happens and we suddenly just lose God as the center. And we get shifted to a smaller and smaller slice of the pie. So how do we get to that point where we can live like Jesus is the point? How do we get to the point where we can live like Solomon says, to fear God and keep his commandments, because that is the whole duty of everyone? How do we get to know God and then live like we do? Like, how do we actually go about doing that? How do we get God back in the center of our lives? Can I get the band back up, please? How do we get to that point? I don't know. There's a lot of ways. There are many, many, many things that we could all be doing differently and whatnot. But I want to give you one practical thing, and it's only small. And I think small in this case is better, because I think sometimes we hear messages like this and then we do a big altar call and we're like, hey, if you want to recommit your life to Jesus and turn it all around, today's the day. And then that's great and it's an awesome moment and there's tears and prayer, and then you go home and then the next day we wake up with the realization that, we still have to go to work. And we get up tomorrow and you still have to go to school. And that you still got that pile of bills on the magnet on your fridge. Like, I've got one practical thing. It's only small, but I think it's actually more attainable and more achievable. And I think it will actually, if we can do it consistently, we'll move the dial to start taking Jesus away from being a slice and putting him back towards the center. So here's what I want you to do if you've got your notebooks with you. I want you to write down one thing that you know is going to take some of your attention this week. Preferably something routine. Preferably something as mundane as possible, something menial, right? Then ask yourself this question. How does knowing that Jesus is the point change how you do it? Or, if there's no way to actually change how it's done, how does knowing that Jesus is the point change your attitude towards it? I was talking to my wife Hannah about this the other day, and she went, laundry. Right? Who knows that laundry is a chore? I don't do it. I'm like that guy in that joke video. He's like, hey honey, look, I've got a magical table and I put dirty clothes on it and the next day they're gone. And then the day after they're clean and folded and back. It's amazing, it's a miracle. Now we're a household of 5. Hannah does load after load after load of laundry. It's like a never-ending supply of just dirty clothes. But how does knowing that Jesus is the point change your attitudes towards it? I have checked with her, I'm not putting words in her mouth, right? It changes it from being a chore to being an act of service. It changes it from being a chore, and it is still a chore, to being an opportunity for her to serve her family, to serve her house. It's only a small shift, but it takes Jesus from the periphery and puts him back in the center. Right? With everything we put our hands to, do it with all of our might. Right? Everything we do, we should be doing for the glory of God. Even the small, even the mundane, even the menial. So write it down. What are you going to be doing this week that is that is routine, that is same old, that is just another day at the office? And how do you change how you do it, knowing that Jesus is the point? Right? Then do it that way. Right? Write down how it would change, then actually follow through and do it. And do it consistently. And then next week, pick another thing. And then another thing. Tick the small stuff, because it's the habits that change us more than the big moments. It's the little things that'll get us back into alignment. It's the routines that'll move God from the outside back to the center, to the focal point of our lives where he belongs. So last thought. If you are tired of life, if you're tired of the chase, feeling like an endless loop of doing whatever you can to find purpose for yourself, then maybe it's time for you to answer the call. The call to come to Jesus, to let him give you rest, to let his guidance define your purpose. Because everything else is hebel. It is vapor. It is breath. It is meaningless. It is vanity. Only Jesus is the point. Let me pray for you. God, thank you that you, Jesus, thank you that you are the point. Thank you that you are the focal point of our lives today. God, I pray that we get that refocus correct. That we shift you away from being just a slice of the pie to being the whole thing. That we start to change our attitudes and our behaviors and our thoughts so that they are aligned with having you at the center, and from knowing you, we can then live like we do. That from knowing you, that is the first and most important thing that we do, and then from there comes how to work, and how to have friends, and how to do relationships, and how to manage our money, and how to rest, and how to have fun, all of that, but it starts with you. God, I pray that the next time we're having one of those days where we're going, why did we do it all? I pray the first answer that comes out of our mouth is, we do it for you, Jesus. We do it for you. Because you are the point. God, I pray. I pray for anyone here who doesn't know Jesus yet. I pray that today that something is shifting and they realize that, hey, maybe there is something more to what they think matters. That all the stuff that they have tried to find purpose and direction and guidance and value in, and have been left ultimately unfulfilled, that today they realize, hey, maybe if I just put God at the center, if I give Jesus a go, maybe that'll transform everything. So God, I just pray. I pray that we refocus, we put you back as the focal point, and that we remember first and foremost that you are the point. In Jesus' name, amen.
Wow, that was good. Oh, thank you, Chris. All right, let's stand. Let's keep that in mind for the rest of the week. That's or the rest of ever. Jesus as the point. All right, let's finish with a bang, and then we can go be community, meet some new people. Are we ready? Yeah. You've been good for all my life. So nothing could ever change my mind. You never break your promise. You're constant in all you do. Yours is the way, the truth, the life that I will choose. Oh, I know that I know you won't ever let me go. Every low and every high, you are faithful all the time. I've tasted and I've seen, you've been so good to me. Oh, I know that I know you're faithful all the time. Oh, you're faithful all the time. Oh, no, I won't look to the left or right. I will keep heaven in my sight. No, I'm cliche.
nothing is moving me. I've got a faith that's sure of things I cannot see. Oh, I know that I know you won't ever let me go. Every low and every high, you are faithful all the time. I've tasted and I've seen, you've been so, so good to me. Oh, I know that I know you're faithful all the time. Oh, you're faithful all the time. Oh, all the time. You're faithful all the time.
Yeah. How good is that? How great was it to worship God today together, to sing together, to be encouraged together? And we encourage you for the next 3 minutes. If you need to go, feel free to go. For the next 3 minutes, if you want to sit and reflect, we encourage you to do that. But one thing we'd love for you to do is for the next 3 minutes, talk to someone who you don't know really well and get to know them. Because at Epicentre, you might have heard, we're about community. And this is how we get known more. And then go out, talk to someone, then go out and have a cuppa together. And don't rush off and enjoy. It's nice and warm inside. So go out. Let's talk.
Oh, I know that I know you won't ever let me go. Every low and every high, you are faithful all the time. I've tasted and I've seen, you've been so, so good to me. God, I know that I know you're faithful all the time. Oh, you're faithful all the time. Oh.